They're taking skin cells to go back to their original form and become blood afterwards. It's incredible.
It is, it's absolutely amazing.
The disease for every Parkinson's patient is at some point going to progress beyond the ability of the medication to control symptoms.
There's one there. Dentist, dentist, dentist. How many?
Probably every other, I would say probably 4 out of 5 businesses down here.
Imagine unlimited supplies of manufactured human blood. The impact on healthcare would be immense. There'd be no need to rely on the goodwill of the public for blood donations. Hospitals would be guaranteed a supply of infection-free blood, and patients who require regular blood transfusions could see their quality of life improved. I'm Dr. Javed Abdulmunem in the UK to meet scientists who are well on the way to turning this dream into a reality, and people whose lives it could transform.
In the UK alone, around 2.2 million units of blood are used each year, including approximately 200,000 in Scotland. We're here to see how this donated blood is prepared before being sent to hospitals and clinics.
Hello.
Hello, Doctor.
Javed.
Nice to meet you.
And so this starts as whole blood. It ends up here as being red cells.
Red cells and plasma.
So how do you separate that?
By putting the filtered units into here with centrifuging.
So these are going to be spun, aren't they? Oh, God, they're heavy.
Just load them in.
They're heavier than I thought they would be, eh?
It's actually being centrifuged to actually separate the two components of the unit, to separate the fluid and the cells. As it's being centrifuged, the heavy material goes to the bottom of the bag, which is the red cells, and the fluid that is suspended in stays at the top.
And then those red cells will be tested for grouping, for infections, labelled, and could be available after just 2 days.
Yes.
There it is. Okay, that's almost just 1 unit of transfusion there, is it? And there's your plasma.
It's going to actually squeeze off the plasma into the empty transfer bag at the top.
So plasma is what makes your blood liquid.
Yep.
This is the liquid of your blood. And red cells, white cells, platelets is all transported in this liquid. Oh, this is what I'm more used to
This is
seeing.
your final product.
This is what I get at the hospital, at the bedside. In resus, this is what comes down to me.
We normally do between 400 and 500 units a day.
Wow.
A busy day we can have up to 800.
And that's 800 people who have blood donated that day.
Yes.
Blood donation is a central part of healthcare worldwide. In the UK, around 8,500 units of donated blood are used every day.
One of the biggest demands on blood transfusion services is chronic blood diseases. I'm here at the Thalassemia unit to meet Chris Sotorellis, who's one of the patients. Chris, hello. I'm Javed.
Hello, Javed. Nice to meet you. Well, it's upstairs on the 3rd floor. Okay.
Thalassemia is a group of inherited blood disorders that affect the body's ability to create red blood cells. The protein hemoglobin found in red blood cells transports oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body and is produced inside the bone using iron that our body takes from food. In thalassemia, the bone does not produce hemoglobin, causing anemia and reduced oxygen-carrying capacity, leading to tiredness and breathlessness. In the most serious cases, it causes organ damage, restricted growth, liver disease, heart failure, and death. Sufferers require blood transfusions every 3 to 4 weeks.
I've been coming here since more than 30 years now, 35 years plus. And this is our special super nurse,
Hello.
Emma.
Hello, Javed. Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
This is donated blood. Each unit is donated by an individual donor. And with Chris, obviously, it goes through the process, then it's been washed, and they'll use other parts of the blood then, you know, the platelets, whatever, for different disorders.
Since he was 6, Chris has been receiving 3 to 4 units of red blood cells every 3 to 4 weeks.
Through all of this, you've managed to get to university.
Yes, I managed to go through school to get my grades and with all the other things at college. Because the fact that we have this condition does not mean that we stop everything else.
In developed countries where established blood donation services exist, between 4 to 6% of the eligible population give blood.
How much blood do you actually get through here in this unit?
On an average day, we probably see around 10 to 12 patients. Usually they'll average between 2 or 3 units per patient. So when you're working out, we're looking at 30 to 40 units of blood each day. You know, to optimally treat a thalassemia patient for life, you're looking at an awful lot of money, even with concessions. Yeah.
An awful lot of blood.
An awful lot of blood, yeah. The transfusions, as we said, are relatively smooth and can be managed relatively well. But one of the byproducts of the blood that we give them is iron.
Iron is integral to the formation of hemoglobin in your body. It's part of the cycle. Now, if you're receiving vast quantities of external iron, as you are when you're getting a transfusion, your body cannot cope, and the iron eventually deposits itself into your organs. For example, your liver and your heart. Now, in years gone by, the only way to look for that would be to actually biopsy the liver, which was not a really good predictor of what was going to happen, and itself wasn't a very good monitor. And that's led to the development of the scan, which actually looks, just by scanning, nothing invasive or painful, it looks directly for iron levels in the liver and in the heart.
At the moment, the blood we give, it's just taken from somebody's arm, so there's new cells, middle cells and aging cells, so therefore the sort of rate of destruction of these cells varies tremendously.
This mixture of old and new blood cells means donated blood has a short lifespan, and so regular recipients are at risk from iron overload. A solution for both these problems might be found in manufacturing blood with cells all of the same age.
We've come to Glasgow University to meet Dr. Joe Mountford, who heads up a research project in the manufacture of blood using stem cells. Hello. Hello, Joe.
Hi, yes.
Hello, Javid.
How do you do?
How are you?
Good. This is the analysis lab. This isn't where the cells live. They live across the corridor, but this is where we find out if we've done what we meant to do.
Cool.
So the first thing before we do anything with any cells is to have a look at them and see how they look. So these are some embryonic stem cells.
Stem cells are the building blocks of the body and have the ability to develop into many different cell types. Jo and her team are using them to produce a potentially unlimited supply of blood.
You can see now there's cells that form quite organic islands, and the cells that you can see there, each one of those individual little shapes is an embryonic stem cell.
At present, they're using 2 sources of stem cells: embryonic stem cells harvested from unused embryos in IVF treatment, and readily available adult cells, which are reprogrammed and given the same flexible properties as embryonic stem cells. This process is known as induced pluripotency.
So pluripotent means they have the capacity to turn into any cell of the body. So they can form muscle, they can form bone, they can form neurons, or they could form blood, anything at all. So when people first started looking at different sources of cells for reprogramming, it was thought that the cells that came from blood might retain that memory in their DNA, and that therefore they might find it easier to make blood rather than neurons. It now looks as though when any cell is reprogrammed, it's totally reset to a base state, and they don't maintain that genetic memory, so they won't more readily make the tissue that they came from.
So you're taking skin cells to go back to their original form and become blood afterwards. It's incredible.
It is, it's absolutely amazing, and it's a technology. What we've been able to show so far is if we take one embryonic stem cell, we can turn it into 350,000 red cells. So a single pint of blood that we take from your arm or we would give back to a patient has 2 times 10 to the 12, so 2 million red blood cells, 2 trillion.
12 zeros, isn't it?
12 zeros,
crikey.
Which is a phenomenal number of cells.
To encourage stem cells to proliferate and grow into red cells, they're fed every 2 days with nutrients to help them multiply and natural chemicals which encourage them to mature into red blood cells. Over a period of 30 days, about 6 different nutrient recipes are used. At the end of the process, red blood cells are produced.
So the key thing is that the cells are stuck to the bottom of the plastic, and we want to disrupt them as little as possible.
Don't want to touch the plastic.
That's it. So these red cells eventually will be exactly the same as the red cells that come from your body. It's not an artificial
That's incredible.
version of a red cell.
That's manufactured blood. That's definitely red, so they are red blood cells.
You can see.
These cells all have a good life of 120 days to go.
Yes, and importantly, they're all the same age. So when we take blood from a donor and we then transfuse it into a recipient, that blood is of all different ages. So one cell might be 119 days old and one cell might be newborn.
In short, a transfusion of these cells would last longer, essentially, than a transfusion of mixed cells that I donated.
Thalassemia is a really interesting indication for us. We've thought about the other diseases we might look at, and we actually think it is the disease in which we can have the most immediate impact as well.
Thalassemia.
Yes. It should be better for Chris, and his particular disease gives us the ideal scenario to test the efficacy as well.
What do you think about the possibility of cultured blood that might mean you wouldn't have to come back in 3 weeks, but you could come back in 3 months?
It would be great. It would be fantastic. Because obviously I can pack more stuff in between, transfusions.
You'd have to come here less, but you'd have less problems with iron as well. And those are the two main problems.
So this is less treatment, less iron, less treatment again. So it's a virtuous circle, really.
It's good.
Worldwide, more than 5 million people suffer from Parkinson's disease, a disorder that causes debilitating shakes and tremors and can make the simplest tasks impossible. I'm Yasmin Qureshi in Pittsburgh, USA, where a treatment called deep brain stimulation is changing lives and bringing much-needed relief. We've come to the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, one of many research hospitals in the United States where doctors are performing a groundbreaking surgery. They implant electrodes in the brains of patients with Parkinson's disease. So toe in the front.
Doing deep brain stimulator placement for a patient named Paul Haldahl, who's a 70-year-old man with Parkinson's disease.
Why are we doing this surgery?
The disease for every Parkinson's patient is at some point going to progress beyond the ability of the medication to control symptoms. And when patients reach that stage, many of them will be candidates for deep brain stimulation surgery. Here's Paul's brain, at least part of it. And this is an area of the brain called the subthalamic nucleus. There's one on each side. It's this kind of almond-shaped structure.
Deep brain stimulation is primarily being used to treat the symptoms of movement disorders, but already in Europe it's approved for treatment of epilepsy, and clinical trials are underway for Alzheimer's, depression, and drug abuse.
Part of the testing that we'll do in the operating room is to ensure that we're in this nucleus, the subthalamic nucleus, and not in any of these other pathways that might give Paul bad side effects from stimulation.
So you got to get it right.
We got to get it right, and we're going to get it right. Okay, Paul. Welcome to the operating room. Ready to go?
I'm ready.
You're going to do that as fast as you can.
Once the surgery is done, what are you hoping will change?
I want to go back pitching baseball with 90 miles an hour. I want to be all for this, and I want to show other people that there's a better way in life.
Let's get started.
The risks of Paul's brain surgery are relatively low. There's a 1% chance of serious complications and a 5% chance of infection.
Good, Phil? You happy? The screws are tight?
So behind me, Paul is being prepped for deep brain stimulation. And Dr. Richardson is actually going to drill a hole in his skull the size of a nickel to place the electrodes in. Paul is sedated for this part of the surgery, but the doctors will wake him up when the electrode is inserted.
X marks the spot for the burr hole. So this is where we're going to drill. We can move ahead.
After drilling the hole, Dr. Richardson inserts a recording device to listen in to the neural activity of Paul's brain. The doctors are confident that they've found a specific area that's responsible for movement and the target for the stimulating electrode.
At the tip of this very thin wire are 4 contacts. With the programmer, we can determine the frequency and voltage and amplitude of this stimulation.
So it really is a pacemaker for the brain.
It's a pacemaker for the brain. And we're ready to insert this in the brain. Yeah. Okay, so we're connected.
Are you done?
I'm not finished. I'm gonna come around this way and test, and then I'll scrub back in for the other side. Excellent. Hold that hand out in the air. And bring it in close to your chest. And hold it out again.
The first electrode was inserted on the left side of Paul's brain, which is responsible for movement on the right side of his body.
That's great. This feels free and this one feels like it's all tensed up.
So Paul, just move your foot up and down. How does that feel to you?
That's good.
He wasn't experiencing anything in terms of a sensation, but what he was experiencing was the fact that his tremor that he's lived with for over 6 years now has just stopped.
Depending on the patient, the deep brain stimulator can be effective for as long as 10 years. Chef Tony Pies had the surgery a year ago. Before the operation, his head and right hand shook uncontrollably, making it impossible for him to run a kitchen. Tony's electrodes are powered by a battery pack that's implanted in his chest and was connected during a second operation.
This time, the doctors turned my battery on. Becky cried and said, "I saw the Parkinsons leave your body."
Becky is your wife?
Before the operation, I was taking 6 pills a day.
So you went from
6 to 2.
The idea that we're implanting an electrical device in people's brains and altering and improving their brain function is really a remarkable thing to be able to do.
Ching ching. The doctor believes that while deep brain stimulation surgery is not a cure, the treatment is being underutilized. He says he's seen drastic, almost unbelievable improvements in the most severe cases of Parkinson's.
Okay, hi David. How are you?
Every day it was like a little bird trying to fly. It was just, you had so many tremors and you just have to wait until the medication kicked in, started to work, and now that's not a problem.
David's agreed to let us turn off the simulator, so we'll start by just turning off the stimulator in the right brain, and so we expect to see his tremor come back on the left side. This is what David was dealing with every day, and this was only slightly controlled on medication compared to what you see here. And you can see how uncomfortable he is, which is why we're going to turn this back on. Thanks, David. And then now the simulator's back on.
How does it feel for you, David, when you have the electrode turned off?
Not good. It feels you're helpless, truly helpless. For the initial visit with the doctor, I said, "Can you have this done before my daughter's surgery, before my daughter's wedding?" He said, "When is that?" And I said, my sister said, June 22nd.
Here's the video.
Did you take that?
Yes.
That's why we did it. She's my only daughter. This is something that I've always waited for. I've always said, I've had Parkinson's for about 11 and a half years. I said, you know, There will be a cure someday, but this is my cure for now.
In the United States and Canada, a trip to the dentist can be a journey to a lot of financial pain. Prices keep going up and dental insurance is often unavailable or inadequate. I'm Pat Woodard and I'm following a group of dental pilgrims to a dental bargain boomtown.
What Deo Dental does is we choose only the top-ranking dentists in Mexico to deliver that U.S. quality dentistry that our clients are seeking, but at a fraction of the cost. Approximately 50 to 70% cheaper than local U.S. dentistry.
Give me an idea of the price difference.
Okay, I was going to have 4 root canals and caps put in Arizona. They were going to charge me approximately $1,750 per canal per cap. I came to Los Algodones and got the same work done for $2,200 some odd, all 4, all caps. A great, great savings there.
Hola, welcome to Mexico. There's one there, dentist, dentist, dentist. How many?
Probably every other, I would say probably 4 out of 5 businesses down here.
This is an incredible run. I mean, there's 300 dentists in this town. How do you find which one to take your clients to?
We're actually the only company out there that screens dentists based on actual client feedback and results. And those dentists that receive complaints about the dental work are removed from our dental network.
First step, find out if the foundation is good.
This is Phyllis McFarland's first trip to Deo Dental's partner clinic in Los Algodones.
I'd like to do it today because it looks awful. It's embarrassing.
Phyllis may need a new bridge, a new crown, and possibly root canal.
So before talking about replace the crown, find out if the root is strong, and then we see to make a new crown.
Okay, close. Okay, and please keep in close 6 minutes, okay?
Dale Meyerson is here for dentures. Hal Stewart is having a routine cleaning and exam.
This is the new crown.
Okay, very good.
And Sheila Graylish broke a tooth while brushing her teeth.
That crown, you can have it in 10 hours.
It's a metal-free crown. We call zirconium. It's a very good material, best that we have in the market now because it is as strong as metal.
You think Americans are surprised that they can come to Mexico and see this kind of technology?
I think so.
Mexico's cheaper prices come with a lack of regulation and legal recourse should something go wrong. A lot of people are probably nervous about coming to Mexico anyway because there's a reputation for violence.
Very good question. So I can tell in this area, things got on Baja, we never got a problem.
This is basically a town for medical services, optical, dental. I would have no qualms in coming down. I didn't. I feel very, very safe.
I had bad experiences with my dentist in Phoenix. Plus, they want a lot of money. She's a good dentist, and she's nice, and I like her.
Thank you.
Well, you don't look too much worse for the wear, Hal.
I feel great. Good dental cleaning makes you feel great.
Sheila, show me your bite. How's it feel?
Wonderful.
Ready to have some lunch and sink your teeth into something?
You betcha.
Well, the dental procedures are over. Everyone's finished up. I've caught up with Hal here. His teeth are feeling pretty good. What are we going to do now?
We're going to go over here and have the best taco in town.
That sounds good. All right. So this is part of the tradition, though, coming down here, right?
Yes, it is. Have a couple of tacos. Pleasant way to spend the day in Mexico.
And save some money.
And save a great deal of money.
I don't know what else is out there. This is like the last, this is it.